Welcome everybody to the Can't Tell Us Nothing show. This is the Can't Tell Us Nothing show you're listening to right now. What is? Oh, yep. That's one member of Can't Tell Us Nothing right there. That's a member known as Tandy. That's the name she goes by. What do they call you in the streets, Tandy?
Oh, Tandy. Tandy in the streets. Tandy in the streets. Tandy in the streets.
That's
this other voice you're hearing.
Y'all we're ready for it.
This other voice you're hearing is John. John, what do they call you in the streets, man?
They don't call me in the streets because I don't give out my government in the streets. You know what I'm saying? If you know me, you just know where I'm gonna be at. You feel me?
That's right. That's right. You always know where he is. Who you don't know where he is sometimes is Amici, who's also here. Amici, what do they call you in the streets?
I'm not on the streets anymore. I'm just at home. So.
You're just at home. That's right.
So you have no clue what they're calling you on the streets now. Right?
Yeah, you shouldn't be in the streets. There's a pandemic out there. And my name is Antoine, and we are the Can't Tell Us Nothing group out of Houston, Texas, an improv group. And what is this show? The Can't Tell Us Nothing show is a show where we take opinions, discussions, topics, turn that into improv scenes right on the spot. We just take it, we make it up. There's characters, there's storylines. It gets crazy. And then we get right back into the discussion. Sometimes we're joined by a special guest. And Tandy, would you like to introduce today's special guest?
Tonight is one of those nights we have a special guest. She has actually been our guest before. But maybe you didn't see the show, so we brought her back. We had such a great time with her. She is a longtime friend of mine. I've known Shanedria since we were in middle school. Oh, I said her name. Her name is Shanedria Wagner, y'all. She's a native Houstonian, nationally recognized edutainer, and shall we say newly realized activist.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you, guys. I love being around people who use double negatives intentionally. Did it on purpose, like you knew better, but you chose to use a double negative. That makes it fly. Yeah, I have a problem when I see educators do it. They don't know, and they're delivering instruction. Oh, child. That and verbal omission and apostrophe omission. I don't know what I'm going to do. Good evening.
Good evening. Well, yeah. So you're looking good. You're looking like things are going well. What's been going on, man?
Oh, girl, a lot and everything. The last time I saw you guys, COVID, we were hoping we'd be out of the twilight.
Yes.
We're still in the twilight zone, a zone of a continuous lies. But tonight I'm feeling rather Phillipsy.
Okay. And what does that mean?
So this shirt just displays the countenance. And for those who didn't pay attention to literature class, that means face. It displays the countenance of my grandfather, my paternal grandfather, the late Dr. Julius Andrew Phillips, who was a civil rights activist. And I look a lot like him. I look more like him than I do my dad. I got this shirt made and I went back to his hometown. He was born in New Orleans, but he moved to Mendon, Louisiana during Jim Crow and opened the first hospital for people of color because people were having to go to the hospital and to the dirt floor basement for service. So he built a hospital with the help of some Jewish friends and serviced that community for decades. And he was a civil rights activist, the first Black doctor in the town. He was targeted by the KKK. They brought the KKK because of voter suppression. He tried to get people to vote. At the time he died in 1959, there were 80 Black registered voters in Webster County where he resided, and there were 8,000 white registered voters. So the day that he died, January 12, 1959, he had gone down to the city hall and had a huge knockdown, drag-out fight about voter suppression, went back to his hospital to deliver a baby, and died of a massive heart attack. But his death, he had signed a petition. He and one other Black person were the only two Black self-employed people in that town who were not afraid to speak out. They signed a petition to launch an investigation that was conducted by the FBI and the Department of Justice into voter suppression. And 4 years after his death, the people in Webster County gained the right to vote as a result of his efforts.
Oh, wow.
I'm feeling so with all that's going on right now with voter suppression and all these going on. I have on my armor tonight. This is my genetic right. I'm biologically just predisposed to speaking out.
Wow.
Right. The genetic.
It's in my blood, baby. I found out about this a year ago in September. I knew that when he died in 59, they opened a school for him in 1960, unheard of. I knew it was the first integrated school in that town. There's a street name for him and a school name for him. Everybody in that town over a certain age were delivered by him, just about. He's still lauded and loved in this town 60 years after his death.
Wow.
What town is that?
That was Minden, Louisiana, in northern Louisiana. You hear about Baton Rouge, La Nouvelle-Orléans, you hear about all those popular places, but there was a northern Louisiana where my grandfather was. They call him the MLK of that town.
Oh.
That's huge.
I look just like the man, look just like him. Never met him a day in my life.
Oh wow!
That's
so
huge.
when you hear that about his life and what he's done and accomplished, what do you take away from that? What's something that you're kind of drawing from that and using to inspire yourself?
Well, I have the ability to not really care about what people think of me. I care about what my creator thinks of me. And so I understood myself better. What I take from that is that I have a responsibility to be my brother's keeper. My brother might be white, my brother might be black. Because my grandfather met with the white doctor at night during Jim Crow, and they conducted surgeries together illegally and swapped medicines illegally, even during Jim Crow. So when I found out what was happening, when I found out about what he really done, when I found out about the petition and everything, it was a year ago. There were some things happening in Pearland, Texas that I felt were wrong. And I found myself speaking out in the church one night, just blurting out to a congressional candidate. He was lying. And when I went outside, I was crying and pacing like, did I just do that? I'm like, I normally try to behave myself in public. And then
Can you take us through the story? Would you mind? Like,
yeah,
what
so
was
sure.
happening?
We had a congressional candidate who was running for an office, and he's a good guy. His lifestyle kind of mirrors mine. Came from a single parent home, but he wasn't being forthcoming. I felt about his ability or his willingness. He didn't really have a willingness to endorse Democratic candidates that ran locally. And so when he ran as a Democrat for Congress, I was like, how dare you? I know 3 people that asked you for endorsements and you didn't even endorse them. So because, local politics was nonpartisan. So in the church that night, one of the debate questions to him that was posed was, you've not supported any Democratic candidates. How can you expect Democrats to support you? And his response was, nobody Democratic asked me for an endorsement. I knew that to be a lie. So I stood up and said, you're in church, and I was like, I did that. And when I got outside, I was crying, pacing, I was furious. And later on that night, I got home. And by this time, I'd gone to Minden in August when my kids and I returned from their Junior Olympics. We went through on a road trip, and the town received us so beautifully. They were so loving, gave me a plaque. It was beautiful. And I established communication with the town historian, John Agan, who just passed away, white chocolate brother. But John inboxed me later on that night about the petition. He said, your granddad was one of 2 people who were not afraid to speak out. And I thought, that's it. That's why I'm so crazy. That's why I'm so outspoken. My granddad was the same way, and my daddy's the same way. But I thought, oh my God. And it was just, I had tears. I just felt like I understood myself better. And I felt a greater responsibility to fight for humanity. Because that's who my granddad was. He was a man who fought for human rights. Of course, he fought for Black people. He was a Black man. Well, he was the 4th white. His dad was a mulatto, and his granddad was a white man, okay? Which is common for a lot of Black people. They don't talk about it a lot, but it's the truth. But he fought for human rights. And so I felt such conviction at that point. And so I ended up doing a live broadcast to talk about it, because when I posted about the first Black hospital for people of color in northern Louisiana, I went to it was a big, beautiful acres of land. The house my dad was, the house and the hospital were connected. There was a pharmacy and a nursing school, and it's still there. And so I went, videotaped it, and I shared it on Facebook, and someone had the audacity to disagree with the fact that I was lauding the fact that my grandfather opened the first hospital for people of color. And I was like, well, I know we're all people of color. White folks turn pink when they get mad, turn red. We all got color, but not everybody acknowledged that. And so I'm going to celebrate. I was so angry about the opposition I got from this one person.
Yeah.
live. And that video got about 5,000 views, you know? So I think it touched people, and I'm already a speaker. So that's when people began to ask me, you know, are you going to run for office? And I said, no, I'm too honest for politics.
And you want to make change.
But I'm too honest for politics.
Too honest for it.
I'll repeat, there are too many people who run for public office who don't say what it is. They'll say, well, I can't say it. You say it. Why are you in office if you can't just say it? People depend on you to just say it. People are dying. People need health care. People need protection. People need food. People need life. They need you to say it. They need you to go fight for them. And yes, there are some politicians who do say it. But I'm just very annoyed by those who who enter politics and don't just say it. So that's my story. So since then, I've been on a crusade more than ever to speak out against, you know, the mistreatment of my fellow human beings. We could not overlook the uniqueness of the Black experience in America and around the world because of the diaspora and imperialism and colonialism. You doggone right. By the same token, I'm very sensitive to human suffering. So when I see my white sister getting picked on, I'm gonna speak up for her too. That's who I am. My mama raised me right. You know?
So what was the opposition you got to the video about the
one of my Pearlander friends was like, you know, a guy who was in Pearland, who I respect him a great deal. I still respect him, but I was mad at him about that. And he was like, why are you pointing out that it was a hospital for people of color? And I was like, because it's history. Like, people often talk about, when we mention, you know, when we talk about the taking down statues, I said, you can't change history. Well, no one can unrape my people. No one can unbeat us. No one can unsell us, unenslave us. The history happened. We just don't want to commemorate it in the way that we're praising people who were mean to mankind. So, dude, I'm just holding a mirror up to what happened. I'm just telling what happened. Be mad at the people who did it. Be mad at those who had an issue with the skin color. Be mad at them. Don't be mad at me for telling the truth. That was history. He opened the first hospital for people of color in northern Louisiana. His name was Julius Andrew Phillips. He was an Omega Psi Phi man, Meharry graduate, 1927, born in 1896, went to Texas College to study undergrad. I'm damn proud of it. That's my history. That's my daddy's daddy. So if he opened a hospital for people of color, I'm going to tell the world about it. His grave site looked so bad that the people at the school, one of the teachers was saying, it's a white sister. She was saying they were going to adopt his plot as a class assignment to clean it up. Because my dad moved to Dubai. I have 6 aunts in Chicago. One was in Chicago, one was in Ohio. Everybody left Minden when he died. My grandmother packed up with the kids, moved to Houston. So, you know, and so I feel it's my responsibility to go back to Minden, to cultivate relationships, to give to their neighborhood. His hospital was in the low-income neighborhood, right across from a housing project. I have a responsibility to go back to Minden and give. I have a responsibility to give of my time and my tithes. That did something to me. It lit a fire under me. Say it, to speak up. They burned a cross in his yard. The KKK burned a cross in his yard. Because at night, he would take his doctor's bag and go around town and pretend he was going on doctor's visits. He was actually preparing them or trying to prepare them to pass a literacy test they couldn't even pass.
Oh, wow.
So those questions were horrible, but the KKK didn't like it. They burned a cross in his yard. One of my dad's first memories was waking up in the middle of the night. My granddad went to the front door and shot his gun. I believe in the Second Amendment. And Democrats also believe in the Second Amendment. And they're saying they don't. They don't believe in certain kinds of rifles getting into the hands of people who shouldn't have them, but they do believe in having gun ownership. Let's get that clear. But he shot his gun. He had a gun, and that distinguished him from the man who didn't have a gun. They burned the cross in the yard. My dad and his friends went out the next morning to play football, staring at this burnt cross. It was still smoking. My dad and his siblings were the only Black children in that town who walked the front door. My dad said, and I'll say this when I'll turn it over to you. My dad said he recalls walking down the sidewalk and hearing people say, those N-words are Dr. Phillips' kids. Don't bother them. That N-word will kill you. He's crazy. So because they knew he had a gun and he didn't play, they didn't bother his kids. But they did have the temerity to burn a cross in his yard, but he did have allies in the white community because when he died, his funeral was held at the Civic Center in 1959 at the Civic Center, and the school was opened for him in 1960, the first integrated school in that city. It's a legacy to be proud about, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, no problem with that.
Absolutely. So yeah, to answer your question, dude, that's what it did to me. It made me feel compelled to stand up for humanity. Yes. You guys are so quiet. What's going on?
No, that's no, it's a lot to digest. I mean,
Yeah.
It is a lot.
it's a lot to digest.
And then can you imagine? And I met my dad at 19. So when I first met my dad, I was like, "You my daddy?" Almost like that girl on Queenie. When Raven Savon played that little girl on the little biracial slave girl on Queenie, and she took the mess and said, "You my pappy?" You know, when I saw my dad, I was like, "You're my dad," because we look nothing alike. We don't look alike at all. But the day that I was at my aunt's apartment, I can recall the first time I saw this picture and chills went through my body. I said, "Oh my God, I look just like this man." You know, I look just like my grandfather, more than I resemble my own dad. So yeah, I love him. I'm so proud of him. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We cut to a scene and in the living room with grandfather and his grandkids. Everybody, please come in here. I gotta tell you guys something. I want to show you some photos.
What you got there, Granddaddy?
Well, you know my time is probably a little short.
No, don't say that. No.
What is
It
that?
means I'm not gonna be around
Granddaddy?
here long. That's what I mean.
Don't be away.
You're
What you
always
talking
going to be
about?
around
No.
Granddaddy.
Well, I'm not. And there's still a lot more work to do. You know, a lot more work to do in this world. So I say all that to say that Antoine, you look the most like your grandfather. The way your shoulders are built, the way your nose looks. You know, I have a lawn care business and I need somebody to take over that business. You look like the exact person to take over your granddaddy's business.
Your lawn care business?
My lawn care business. You right there. Well, I know, just before you think about it, let me show you some pictures first. Let me show you a picture of what I look like back in high school. Just come over here. Let me show you my yearbook.
Okay.
You see that here picture there, Antoine? It looks just like you, don't it?
You with the lawnmower there?
Yep.
Maybe. It kind of. You mowed the school's lawn?
I got paid for every square inch I mowed at that lawn. Yes, your grandfather did. And that was back in Jim Crow. Yes. He still paid me because I threatened to run over one of them white men with my lawnmower. And next day I got my check. I sure did.
I don't know. I kind of wanted to be a computer engineer when I grew up.
Oh, you could be a computer engineer any time in the world, right? But how many times are you going to get to inherit a business? Looking just like me. I mean, look, I got contracts. All you got to do is meet with my vendors. When they see your face, they're going to think of me back in the day, and they're going to be like, "Ooh, that's John right there. He was in his prime," and the business going to take off. All right? You ain't got to do nothing but just look like me, son. Everybody else?
I gotta look like
Yes.
you.
Daddy, I know, Daddy. That's so great, and I always told my boy he looked just like you, but he's just 15. Daddy, he can't take over your business right now. He got school to go to. He hasn't even gone to college. He hasn't done what he needs. I know he looks like you, but he's really not ready right now.
Not ready.
Tandy,
Yeah.
remember all them stories I told you about your father when I was young?
Yes, sir.
Remember that time I fought the Klan by myself when I was 8?
I remember
that?
that. Yeah, you fought the Klan
By myself.
by yourself.
I got my daddy's lawnmower. I
Yeah,
ran that mug up. And I ran out all of them sheets in the yard. Cut it nice line up too. Cut it right around the burning cross. Looked real good.
And we got all them sheets, and you told us tear them up and use them for rags at the house. I remember that. I remember that story.
Absolutely.
You did a lot with lawnmowers, Daddy, and I mean nobody is doubting that. I'm just saying Antoine's just a little bit too young to take over a business. Plus, he hasn't even killed anybody with a lawnmower. He doesn't know what to do with a lawnmower.
I don't want to kill anyone with a lawnmower.
Hush up, boy. Listen to your granddad.
Well, Antoine, I got a question I want to ask you.
All right.
Do you think you'll be able to kill somebody as a computer engineer? Huh? Do you
Probably
think you'll
not.
have?
I hope
Then
not.
I don't think. Then I don't think that's something you want to do and commit to the rest of your life, son. You got to be willing to die for what you believe in. Ain't nobody dying for computer engineering.
Listen
Yeah.
to him, son. Your granddaddy got some. He's making a point there. He's making a point.
suppose
I've never been afraid of a computer engineer, but when I see a man cutting the lawn, boy, I lock my doors.
Yep. And sure enough, your grandfather. Look at this. Let me show you a picture back when I was 25. Back when I was ripped. I had trapezius muscles was popping. I used to cut lawns with no shirt on.
Well, yeah.
That's how I met.
You're
that's
running
how I
two
met your mom.
lawnmowers right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Dad, you remember when you told us that story when you were at the club and you was dancing with mom and that man tried to cut in on your dance and you walked out the club and he thought he won and you came back with your lawnmower?
Cut his foot off.
You cut his foot off at the club.
At the club. You don't step on my stuff, you know what I'm saying? That was my one.
You popped the trunk and got your lawnmower out on him?
Popped the truck and got my lawnmower, got my blower so I could blow the blood over in the side so nobody would slip on the dance floor.
Wow.
It was something with that lawnmower. It used to scare us. We'd be driving down the road and the cops would pull us over and I'd be praying, please don't look in the trunk at daddy's lawnmower. Please don't look in the trunk.
What were they going to find?
They were going to find that lawnmower.
I'm going to find the lawnmower. They had a couple bodies on it, but it's a great lawnmower. Listen, do you want to go to school or do you want to have respect, admiration from the family, the neighborhood when you come home from work 15 years old with a pocket full of money and your name brand on your shirt? Or do you want to be some old rat looking, computer engineer? You're just sitting in a cuticle all day spinning your wheels and just spinning your wheels. And your name ain't on your shirt. It's some other man's name on his shirt. That's what you got. That's what you got to look forward to, son. I'm just trying to give you a legacy.
And Daddy, tell him about the lawnmower school that you opened up. Because a lot of people didn't even know how to cut grass, Antoine. And when he built that school and opened it up, and he opened it up to everybody, but it was only a certain group of people who came in there to learn. And it was all men. It was mainly men that came in there to learn how to cut lawns.
We got to John's first day of class.
All right. I want y'all to come in a little close real quick. I want y'all to see something. All right. I'm going to pull out a couple of photos just to kind of show y'all what y'all up against here. Now, I got to be probably the most successful lawn man in this town. And
Yeah,
if you don't
we
look
all
like,
agree that.
yeah. But if you don't look like me, the chances of your success is going to be very off. So I want y'all to come over here, take a little profile pic. We're going to compare it up against my pic. And the ones that look the closest to me, you're going to continue in this class.
Wait,
The
what?
ones that don't look like me, you're going to get your pink slip and you'll be outside and going to another school. Maybe
Wait,
being
hold on. I paid
engineers.
$10,000 to be here. You're
Yeah.
telling me I could get thrown out on my first day. I don't
Absolutely.
look like you.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not thrown out because you don't look like me. It's thrown out because your success chances are very low. So all I'm doing is I'm giving you paid $10,000. If you don't look like me, well, I just gave you the best information in your life. You will not be a successful lawn man. That's it. You're getting something out of it.
How about you just teach us how to handle the lawnmower? Set the blade height and sharpen it, keep maintenance. There's a lot of stuff that goes in.
It ain't that easy. What happens if you get pulled over by the cops and your lawnmower's in the back seat, huh?
I don't know.
What happens if somebody comes up trying to steal your yard, right? Because you took over their territory, huh? Did you think you can deal with that? With the face you got and the shoulders and the forearms you got, look like you'll get beat up by one person, without a lawnmower. They probably won't even use a blower or something. I'm here to teach y'all a way of life, ownership, and the path that I seem to have found that works for me, right? And one of the main ingredients to that is I've looked like this.
And scene. Yeah, there is a lot of power in having that facial resemblance. What was
Get
the
you
word
in there.
earlier?
Countenance.
Countenance.
Countenance.